Hey there, welcome back to Assetto Corsa. Today we're actually checking out the Shin 956 Detroit 1985 track, but I wanted to quickly show you this car. This is the Tyrrell 012. This was a car that was raced from 1983 to 1985, and it's got some interesting history that we're going to talk about as we drive this great track. So this is a F1 track, and Shin 956 converted this track and did an amazing job at it. We've seen several of his tracks and conversions for this Detroit area. There were different variations of this track. It kind of matured as they got more experience with it, got input from the drivers. And this is 1985. Absolutely gorgeous, tremendously authentic looking track, and it's all great fun to drive. So let's talk a little bit about this car. This car is really interesting. So Tyrrell, of course, F1 team that is no more. I think that they ran until the early 90s. And this car in particular had a little bit of controversy and a couple of interesting aspects to it. So the first thing that's kind of interesting is that this is one of the first cars, along with Lotus and McLaren, that went to carbon fiber to lighten the bodywork and make sure that the car could compete. Of course, carbon fiber really strong, super light, and it's really commonplace in race cars and racing in general now. So that's kind of cool that people learned a little bit from cars like this one in that regard. This is also the very last naturally aspirated car of this era in F1. And it was a long holdout, running a Ford Cosworth 100 brake horsepower. And Tyrrell team had to do some interesting stuff to stay competitive as everybody was switching to turbo cars. They were giving up about 150 horsepower to the other cars on the grid. So unfortunately, in 1984, at the conclusion of the 84 Detroit Grand Prix, they were found cheating. So at the end of the race, of course, cars are impounded for inspection, make sure that they abide by the rules and all that kind of good stuff. And during inspection, this car, or actually all the Tyrrell cars, were found to be adding some lead ballast towards the end of the race to make weight. And I guess they had a common engineering capability that was part of the engine set up to basically allow water injector to cool the cylinder heads to increase the horsepower of the engine. Of course, the cooler the engine, the more horsepower it produces. And this required a tank accepted the water, and that's how they were adding the lead ballast. I guess for the Detroit race, when they added the water on their last pit stop, they also added about 130 pounds of lead balls to the mix. So Tyrrell was then stripped of all of its points for the 84 season and had all sorts of other penalties, specifically financial penalties, added to that made it very difficult to continue to compete in 85. And they did make it back in 85. And this car actually finished fourth in this race in 1985. Just super, super cool. Of course, shortly after this race, they converted to a Renault power plant, ditching the Ford, and of course the Renault was turbo powered. Already a car that was, engine power that was in the Lotus. must admit that I like the naturally aspirated. I like the more even power delivery. It'll still bite you. Notice I'm not going down to first gear. Too much torque in first gear. I'd rotate this thing in a heartbeat. Terrible at driving this car, but I like it. Oh no. I kept it off the wall. There's a 5-speed transmission in this thing, but I'm not seeing 5th in this. Oh, over-rotate. Again, I managed to keep it off the wall, which I'm not ashamed to say is more difficult than it sounds. staying on the brakes too long. A lot of this track is very similar to the 84 version. Damn. Need to be braver. Well, I think that about ends my my drive, because I'm sure it's bent up pretty good now. Yeah, he's broken pretty good. We'll drive her the rest of the way around, I think. Great car, great history, tough to drive, and tough to drive fast. I think that this car, in 1985 on this track, did a 146.6. As you can see, I'm nowhere near that. I'd love to be able to drive this car better, but it's a definite learning curve. And it's a trust thing, too. I need to learn to trust the car a little bit more than I'm capable of. But man, great track, beautiful track. Shin 956 did a great job with the track, and this car is absolutely fabulous for its history and the fact that it represents an era that was rife with a lot of change in motorsport. And not only in terms of what we were talking about in terms of turbo versus non-turbo, but also safety, other sorts of things, right on the cusp of a tremendous amount of change that was coming to F1, and has created the sport that we enjoy today. Hope you had fun. Hope this was interesting for you, and I appreciate you joining me. I hope you'll join me in the next one. Bye now.
Spaß mache Rennsport.